We have a great guest. We have a great guest lined up for tonight, and he's on the line with us. He's worked for WWF, WCW, AWA, just to name a few. He is Bobby Starr. Bobby, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, but just from the introduction, it sounds like I must be old like Hogan.
Oh, no. You still got plenty of years left in the business. We've got a lot of questions for you.
Anyway.
Now, we've got a long list of questions, so if you don't mind, let's go and get started.
Hit it, bro.
All right. Now, growing up, were you a wrestling fan? If so, who were some of your favorites and least favorites?
Well, I mean, growing up, I'm here in Baltimore now. We've got a Legend show this weekend here, and I'm here with my mom. Growing up in Baltimore, my mom was like a semi-professional bowler, so, like, you know, you follow your parents and you do that stuff. And people laugh every time I tell them this story. It snowed one weekend, really, really bad here, and wonderful East Coast winters. But anyway, I go to turn on cartoons, as any kid does. You know, I'm like 14, 12, something like that. And there's no cartoons on. It was pro wrestling. It was WWF back when they used to run the Poughkeepsie Mid-Hudson Civic Center, one of those shows. And it was absolutely amazing. I watched Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper beat the hell out of one another, and from that point on, I was hooked. And it wasn't just one guy, it was every guy. Because growing up here in Baltimore, we used to get one WWF show a month. And on a month like March with 31 days, you may even get two. And then you've got one every month of the year, NWA every month of the year. Then the AWA would come here and do their big super shows where they would get the Road Warriors on the show from the NWA and Japanese people and stuff like that. So growing up in Baltimore, this town was hot for pro wrestling at one time.
Now, was wrestling your first career choice? If not, what was?
No, wrestling really was. I mean, when I was in high school, I had no clue. My life, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. And I started training, actually, when I was in high school. I met a wrestler by the name of Bad Boy Ricky Lawless, who lives here in Baltimore. God rest his soul. Jimmy got murdered about 4 months into my training, and there's three people that you guys will know that he trained. And actually we were all from the same class because none of the other guys ever really made it. But you had Axel Rotten, you had Jumpin' Joey Maggs, who was famous for WCW, and then myself.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we just had Axel on not too long ago. Really good interview, lots of stories.
Oh, Axel's got tons of them, man.
Now, during the time you debuted in wrestling, training was a lot different than it is these days. Could you describe your training to our listeners?
It's nothing like it is now because, I mean, we have, and I got to do a shameless plug real quick, Gilbert's Pro Wrestling School. They just opened up a new school here in Baltimore, and I'm helping out with training with different guys, and Dwayne's doing phenomenal. He's got a hell of a lot of students, and they're really doing well. At his school, they're getting trained like I got trained, and it's like, you know, I only had 3 months before my trainer got killed, and it was kind of like you learn as you go. You screw something up, you get your ass beat, and that's just the way it goes. Nowadays, you watch these people, and even though he's a phenomenal worker now, and I love his gimmick, and he's funnier than hell, The Miz, you know, Mike was MTV, you know what I mean? And I was there. I was just getting into wrestling and getting going with it when the MTV revolution came with the Roddy Piper and Hogan thing or whatever, the War to Settle the Score. That was my first big show. And the way they train now at a regular school, and this is God's honest truth, and it's absolutely horrible, but it is true, and there's a lot of them out there, and they know who they are. If you pay them whatever the fee is, I mean, I've heard anywhere from $1,000 to, I think the Dudley Boys are probably the highest, but one of the best schools there is. And I'm not going to quote prices on them, but let's just say I know schools go between one and that's it. The sky's the limit. But the deal is if you pay your money, you know, I've seen guys on these independent shows that just absolutely do not deserve to be part. They should be like the ring guy getting the jackets. And it's like you go to a credible school like Gilbert's or the Dudleys, and these guys are teaching you old school wrestling. You know, you don't. How do I explain it? Like now, if they screw up one move, we'll just go to something else. No, in the old days, when you learned a hold or you learned a move, you did it over and over and over and over again. It was absolutely amazing. It would just, like if you did a body slam drill, they would kill you with it because you would be doing it 4 times a night and with a break in between, and it's like until you got it right, you didn't move forward, and you damn sure didn't get in the pro wrestling ring in a pair of sneakers or gym shorts, and the kids now go, oh, John Cena does it. That's John Cena.
I see exactly what you're saying about that. Yeah, I hate going to shows, and you know, first thing I learned obviously was the respect. You know, backstage, even walk around shaking everybody's hand. You know, and that's just out of the ring. But in the ring, you know, you've got these guys that don't even know how to do anything. They can do 15 high spots, but they can't do a wrist lock. It's kind of sad.
That's because they're wrestlers. They're not workers. There's a major difference. You can train anybody to be a wrestler. Not anybody can be a worker.
I would agree with you. Now, my next question for you is, do you have any memories of your first match? You know, we hear a lot of horror stories from people's first matches. I'm just kind of curious how yours went.
Well, the very first match, wow, I remember it. That's about all I can tell you. I mean, Jimmy was good friends with the Savoldis. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they're a big thing here on the East Coast up north. And they're actually one of the few territories still around. They don't run all the time, but they run doubles and triples and stuff like that. But anyway, back in the day, Jumpin' Joe Savoldi on UWF, he was a big deal up there. And they were running shows, and they called the guy who started training me, Jim Leon, and they just said, Jim, bring me like 4 guys for TV, and then you. And, of course, Jimmy was getting a little push up there. He was getting put over and stuff. So we'd all pile in the same car and drive all the way to Lewiston, Maine from Baltimore, which is one hell of a drive. And we get up there, and, you know, as a kid, I'm scared to death. I don't know what's coming next. You know, you got this guy named Gustav the Giant, and actually people are going to have to go on and Google him because he never got a major push, but he was just as big as Andre. And here's his manager, legitimately, Skylo Lowe, the midget, because he spoke French-Canadian or whatever, and that's what this how the guy talked. You got the Terminators, which was Road War Animal's brother, and I forget who his partner was. I wish to this day I could remember, but I know that's who I worked with, was the Terminators. I don't remember who my partner was, but damn, they beat the piss out of me. I mean, it was my first match. I mean, they didn't take liberties. They were just extremely stiff, but back then, you protect the business. You know what I mean? It's totally different. Like with me, I bet you there isn't 5 people that can say I ever hurt them. You know, Brian Pillman being one, and it wasn't my fault. I kicked him in the face, but that was just shit happens on TV.
Now, you know, around this time in your career, you began working for WWF as an enhancement talent. What were your thoughts of Vince McMahon during this time, and what are some of your fondest memories of working for the company?
Working for the WWF, wow. How do you want me to take this? Working for him or working for him opposed to working for the WWE?
How about both?
Well, when you work for the WWF, when you came to hotels, they always took care of you. You would go into any restaurant establishment, they were always there for you. The airline, same thing. I don't think I flew coach, which is what the tickets they always bought us, but I don't think I flew coach once. Because in those days and times, professional wrestlers were gods, man. It's just like now, you know, you go to everybody's got a different team that's on the phone right now, but I have the Ravens here in Baltimore. And you go to a Ravens game and there's Ray Lewis. Oh, my God, he's a superstar. Well, guess what? The job guys, the enhancement guys, were major stars. I mean, look, Barry Horowitz, Iron Mike Sharp, Steve Lombardi, who still works for the company behind the scenes. I mean, you know, the WWE, I don't know how to explain it. Because, see, I've never worked for the WWE. I worked for the WWF, and a lot of friends are there now. A good friend of mine actually just walked, Matt Hardy. But the thing of it is it's like it's 2 totally different worlds. If you look at we were talking about this last night at the wrestling gym, the classic hot tag. If you watch pro wrestling now, as they would have you believe it, number one, it's not pro wrestling, it's entertainment, which back in our day, that would get your ass kicked. They're taking away everything, like a classic hot tag. You know, the babyface is coming, he's coming, he finally gets that tag, his partner comes in on fire, you're bumping one, you're bumping the other one, everybody's flying, the crowd comes to their feet. Nowadays, watch what they do now in a tag match. It's nothing like that. You know, they're saying, oh, you can't chop people because the Ric Flair, woo, you know what? So it gets the people up. See, in my day, they paid me a fee to go out there, and depending on what job I was doing, but in some matches they paid me to go out there and make these guys look like $1 million. Well, that's all they would say. They don't tell you how to do your job back in my day. Now, today, these guys, it's totally different. It's like if everything is timed. You know, I mean, not that we weren't. We had times too, but not like today. You can watch where some of these people. I saw an interview. It was one of the divas and one of the young guys, and you got to forgive me. We were talking about this last night too. I can't even remember all their names anymore, and that should tell you something, because in 1987 through, actually 85, but say 87 through 2005, there wasn't a guy working on TV I didn't know who it was, and that most of them I hadn't met and worked with. But now there's so many guys. But nevertheless, they were doing an interview, and they must have got wrapped up. And the thing of it is you know, you have someone with a time letting you know. I mean, because you're on national television, they're going to fade to black. You look like a complete ass if you're standing there talking when they go to black. So somebody's winding them down. And evidently, they ran out of material, and it was on WWE. And I watched it, and I went, oh, somebody's going to get their ass chewed when they walk through the curtain by Vince tonight. And see, but back in my day, very rarely did Vince McMahon ever have to chew out any of us, because, like Ricky Morton said, I saw a shoot interview with Ricky Morton and Manny Fernandez, and like Ricky said, it didn't matter from the opening enhancement guy to the main event. Everybody could work. It's not like now. You know, back then you could go in a dressing room and be confident, no matter whose name goes against yours on the blackboard for TV, that they're going to take care of you, and in change they're going to make them look like $1 million. And it's like, you know, people never quite got that. They say, oh, wrestling's fake. No, not by a long shot. You get in any ring with me, I could put you in some rings right now that are so stiff, taking a bump ain't no different than taking a bump out in the middle of the street from my house. And I've gotten some rings where you take a bump and it's beautiful. It's the way it should be, you know. But the bottom line, like Ricky said, and I'll never forget that, because I was watching it and I was popping huge for him. It's like everybody back then could work.
Now, Bobby, what were your circumstances around your departure from the WWF?
Well, back then, none of us, we didn't have contracts. It was a handshake deal. I got to thank Dwayne Gill for that one. He got me hooked up with Tony Gurria. And basically, when I was up there, the last time I went on the road for him was in '94. And it was a Christmas tour, and X-Pac had, or I forget, I guess he was using a 1, 2, 3 Kid still then. His wife was pregnant and got sick, and he had to go home. Well, I had a job working at a used car dealer. You know what I mean? Everybody's got to pick up stupid-ass jobs, you know, in between shows and in between bookings and stuff. And I'm working there, and I get a phone call from Dwayne Gill. Quit your job. We're going on the road. I said, do what? And I hung up on him like 5 times. It was just ridiculous, because I had just come back from doing TV with WCW. WCW was an open-door policy. You make a phone call. If they have room and they know you can work, you're in. So he calls me back and calls me back and calls me back. And finally I said, okay, fine, whatever. Go up and tell my boss. My boss tells me if I missed any more time, he's going to have to let me go. I said, well, look, pal, I've been doing this for many years. I said, this is one of my dreams. I'll see you later, you know. Grabbed my shit, met them two, Barry Hardy, Dwayne Gill, the Executioners, and away we go. And we did that last loop, and there was nothing wrong. I wrestled Nikolai Volkov every night. Nikolai is a major star. He's held the tag team titles with the Sheik. Everybody loves the Iron Sheik. And it was just kind of, I didn't hear from him, you know. And it's like when I left the last night of the tour, they canceled one show because it was New Year's Eve, and the advance was bad. But every show that week was sold out. And this is at a time, and this is another thing because you guys are young guys, but back in the day, you would work 9 times a week. And the shots were amazing because you would get on an airplane twice on a Saturday. It was ridiculous. The last tour I was on the C team. I don't remember if I was the opening match or the second match, because Barry and Dwayne were doing the Executioners, and they were working with the Head Shrinkers, which was Barbarian and, God, I forget who it was. Was it Sam Jr.? It was one of the Samoans. And, like they told me at the end of the tour, there was nothing wrong and everything was cool and they'd see me soon, but then the phone didn't ring, you know, and that's, back then there was no friggin' cell phones and shit like that. We had pagers, but even those, I mean, they only work when you're by your house or whatever, in your, like, home state. And I just went back to WCW. I had open arms down there because the Assassin, Jody Hamilton, that was my boss, and I proved to him I could take guys like Ice Train and Tugboat and Earthquake and make them look like major stars and cover everything, and the matches were amazing. Because I sit here and look at the videos and I'm going, I cannot believe I did this shit. But it was, that's how pro wrestling was, man. And when you went on tour, if you were on a tour with Hogan on top, Jesus Christ, the money was amazing. But if you go to WCW, it's guaranteed money no matter what.
Now, we have a caller in queue that we're going to go and put on the question for you. Call us from the 940. You're on the air with yeah. Hello, caller. Can you hear me? All right, they hung up. Earlier this week, former WWF ring announcer Michael Porter passed away. I was wondering if you had any thoughts or memories you wanted to share with him.
To be honest with you, I actually shot out a few messages on Facebook. I didn't know him. When I came around, Mel Phillips was the ring announcer, and then you had Howard Finkel still on the road. I did see that he passed, and I wish the best to his family. And, I mean, anybody in the business, that's the thing. And it's like the young guys, they're learning it, but they're learning it really slow. Back in the day, once you were accepted in the dressing room and you didn't buy your way in, you earned your way in by busting your ass, everybody's a family. And you may not like that person. You may get into arguments with them, but it's still family, and I hate to see any of the guys go. God knows in the last, 15 years, 18 years, we've lost enough.
All right, in the last couple, even this year. Now, Bobby, you wrestled for a lot of independent promotions over the years. I counted up, it looks like it's close to 100. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later, but one of the promotions you were with, it was like a later version of the AWA.
Oh, boy.
You were their last TV champion. You still own that belt.
I still own it because the cheap bastard never paid me my money. There's several things. I've worked for a couple different AWAs. Dale Gagne out of Minneapolis. People can say what they want. He's always been right there with me. My money was always right. He always got me good matches. My plane tickets were always there. But there was a couple other guys, and they had a kickoff of the AWA. I don't know how or why, but they did. And they were nice guys. I mean, the plane tickets were there all but the last tour, But they did stupid shit. I mean, the last tour I worked for them, when I won that strap, it was Gilbert was there. I forget who he worked with. Buddy Landell was there. Public Enemy fought the Road Warriors every night. And let me tell you something. I'll give you an idea, and I'm not going to give exact numbers, but let's just say what the Road Warriors got paid on the independents, they could pay for a whole show with names and probably 10 matches. So he put all that stuff on one show, and we ran like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Indiana. And it just fell apart. I mean, it's nothing like working for Dale. Like I said, everything with Dale, you get shit that you just don't see on regular independent shows. Or I know you did when I was working for him. We flew out to do a show in Nevada, and it was like right way down in the corner, and it was like California, Arizona, and Nevada all touched like at one point. And the show was right there. We were from a big biker convention thing, and they treated us like gold. I mean, we had personal appearances to do and stuff, and it was just like working for Vince. I mean, you go out, you do your personal appearance. I remember the one I did there was at Hardee's. It was hilarious. And the people had no clue. Their manager okayed the deal through them, and we show up to do an autograph session, and they don't know what the hell's going on. But, I mean, Dale really had it together. Mike Schwab was the guy's name, if I remember correctly. And it all fell apart. His wife worked for Jägermeister. So Jägermeister was a major sponsor, was handing this guy a ton of money, and it just went south.
Now, let's switch gears a bit to WCW. Now, you spent 6 years in WCW. You wrestled on pretty much every show they had. You wrestled on Nitros, Thunders, Saturday nights, everything. And we've heard some real horror stories about the WCW locker room. What was that atmosphere like for you?
See, I'm different than a lot of the guys. And one correction, the only show I never wrestled on was Thunder. I worked on every show. I didn't get to Thunder. As a matter of fact, I was talking with Terry Taylor about doing some matches on Thunder just for the hell of it, just so I could say I worked on all of them right when Shane walked out on TV one Monday night. And that was the end of that. WCW, for me, I had a blast, man. I was a young kid, and I remember how it happened. I was sitting here, and nothing was going on with WWF, and I was like, that's all I did, so I was broke, which is the story of half of pro wrestlers when they get into business. And I found out that they were going to do a TV taping in Baltimore for the WCW/NWA. It was just changing. And I called down to their office, and they blew me off. It was like I do with everybody. And then I found out that if you call a power plant, you could talk to this guy, Joe Hamilton. And I didn't even know who he was, not at first. And they said he could steer me in the right direction. So I called him like every day for forever. It must have been at least 2 or 3 weeks. But every single day I call and leave a message. And finally, I guess I pissed him off enough that he was like, okay, fine, let's give this kid a shot. What's the worst thing that could happen? Well, that was the famous night. The show that I'm talking about is the famous night that Ron Simmons won the world title in Baltimore. And it was so amazing because here I go from working, did some NWA stuff, WWF stuff. I'm doing okay. I'm making good money, whatever. I get in this dressing room, and Ron Simmons is winning the world title, and Vader, he's very temperamental. Leon had the hands of a baby when he wanted to, but when he wanted to, the baby bull thing came out, and you end up getting hurt. And he got pissed off that they took the strap off of him, and he took it out on me and Marcus Bagwell that night. And it was funny. He's like just banging him in the sides of my head with them big-ass paws of his, to the point where I thought my eardrum broke. And then they just rolled us out of the ring, and he did his big promo, whatever. Well, then I get a call from Dusty Rhodes. And it's funny because the first couple times he called me, I hung up on him because my ears rung for like a week. And you laugh, but it's true. The shit hurt. And I finally answered the phone with the right ear, and he's like, kid, what the hell are you doing, And I'm like, I'm sitting here in pain. What do you think I'm doing? He's like, I need you to come to Atlanta. I said, okie doke, I'm on my way. No driver's license. Got my girlfriend's car, drove to Atlanta, Georgia, wrestled Johnny B. Bad, had a phenomenal match with Johnny B. Bad. The next night, I wrestled another guy from here in Baltimore, Van Hammer, and it was what it was. Mark's a good guy. He's so big, it was hard to work with him because he was tall, and he was muscle-bound, and he was worried about, his spot and all that shit. And, that's the difference because back when I very first started, you work with, like, the Rock and Roll Express. You work with the Road Warriors. You work with Baron Von Raschke and Ivan Koloff. No matter who you work with, you were taken care of, always.
Okay, now, what were your thoughts on Eric Bischoff? And given the opportunity, would you rather work for Eric Bischoff or Vince McMahon?
Eric Bischoff, to me personally, was nothing but nice. But I did see some of the crazy antics backstage. You have to understand something. Everybody blames Eric for WCW going down, and I could say that. See, I didn't make that kind of money. When I left, my last run with them was $500 a night, which at that time was phenomenal money. You're a private contractor, you're going in there, you're working. I was getting between 2 and 5 dates a week. It all depended on if it was TV weeks or if they were in the Northeast. But I made phenomenal money. But the stuff that Eric was dealing with these guys was just so off the hook. You would hear, like, I remember when Goldberg first came in, they called him Horseshoe. Or him and Horseshoe, they had, like, a fight down in Florida. And they fired them both. Didn't think nothing of it. But Hulk saw something in Goldberg, and when they started that streak thing, the money was, he was the only one I can say got ripped at first. But let me tell you something, he put it in their ass in the end. Because when he finished, it was a phenomenon. That one thing carried the company. And anybody can say what they wanted. That was Bischoff's golden child. But I was there when Bischoff got rid of Stone Cold Steve Austin, too. And it's like the guys in the dressing room, everybody's shaking their head going, what is he doing? But like I said, I can't say anything bad about Eric. He always treated me good. As a matter of fact, I can kind of kayfabe it a little bit and tell you a little story. The night that, I think it was Super Brawl 5, when the Outsiders came. Help me out here. Was that the right date? When it Super Brawl?
What was that?
Wasn't it Super Brawl when the Outsiders came to WCW?
I think that was Bash at the Beach.
Bash at the Beach. Okay, well, we're at the show. Well, whatever it was, Eric gets thrown off the stage to a table.
Okay, I remember that now. That was the Great American Bash.
Okay, the Bash in Baltimore. And Kevin Nash and Scott Hall come out, and Kevin throws him through the damn table. And it's so funny because Eric, at that time, the business was still, kind of kayfabe type deal, and Eric wanted out of that building fast. And it was so funny because my car was the only one that wasn't blocked in the garage. And I ended up taking him back to his hotel, and he, like I said, he told me that day, he said, you work our enhancement team, right? And I was like, yeah. He goes, I'm really glad you were here to help me out. He goes, I'll see you in Atlanta next week. And I was on every single taping from that point forward just for doing him some stupid favor. You know what I mean? But Eric, like I said, a lot of people get pissed at Eric. But Vince McMahon, let me tell you something. Guys can say what they want. I guess the top guys have a lot of interaction with him. The interaction I had with him at the WWF was always positive. It was always a handshake. It was always, how are you doing? How's your family? Blah, 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 whatever. And like I said, always professional. I never saw Vince. I've never personally seen Vince get pissed off and start screaming. I saw Bischoff do it a lot, though, especially at Nitro.
No, so it sounds like WCW is one of the more one of the favorite experiences of your life. What are some of your lasting memories of your time there?
Man, there's a lot of them. I used to hang out with Harlem Heat and travel with them some, and Sherry Martel was one of my buddies. And I was taken care of down there because, like I said, it's a family-type thing. And I remember Booker T saying to me one time, they came up with a nickname for me, which a lot of guys had back then, but they called me Dirty Red because I have red hair, long red hair. And he comes up to me in the dressing room one night in Atlanta, Georgia, and he says, hey, Dirty Red. He said, Jesus Christ. He goes, I got a contract for X amount of dollars, whatever. He goes, you don't even have a contract. You work more than we do. And it was true. I was on every taping. So it's like whether I brought, because I used to bring a crew of guys. There was a couple different guys in the country that would do it. It was me, Dave Sierra, the Cuban assassin out of Tampa, Florida, and then Scott Demora, who I actually hooked up with WCW. Then he started bringing his own crew, the Canadian guys down, which, here's one for you, Edge, Rhino, there's a couple other guys. They all came from his crew, and they all did jobs at WCW, and they disappeared. And then, like, Rhino got a spot at ECW and came out this monster. Well, Terry was nothing like that when I knew him. You know what I mean? And then Edge showed up on TV with Christian, and both of those guys were from Scott Demore's camp. And next thing you know, Jesus Christ, is the biggest stars in the business. But with WCW, the difference for me personally was I felt at home there. I mean, yeah, we're all there to make money and stuff like that, but everybody was more relaxed. The matches, like house shows, a lot of guys got in trouble when Bill Watts was there for being late, but other than that, the house shows were good. I mean, the matches themselves, anybody has off nights. When you're dealing with a huge crew like that, you're going to see that a lot. But people would bitch and say, well, this house was down or that house was down. It's like, well, you know what? We can only wrestle. We're here to do the show. It's up to promotions to get shit right, because think about it. If you go to your hometown and they say this Saturday night it's Sting against Vader, and you get there and it's Sting against Ron Simmons, just something stupid. It kills the business. I mean, people came just to see that match. They paid their hard-earned money. But other than that part of stuff being screwed up in promotions, the money that was flying around, the talent that was there, because you got to remember, it was two different crews. The Monday Nitro crew did not, as a general thing, work in Orlando, Florida. You would have a guy come in and do 2 or 3 matches, and that was it. Where the guys that were always on WCW Saturday Night, Pro, Worldwide, we were on TV all the time. The Nitro guys were on TV on Monday, every single Monday, but then rarely on Thunder, rarely on Worldwide. You understand what I'm saying? But it was just a tight group family. When Monday Nitro came together, I was at Thunder. I just didn't work on the shows. I have more fun there. Up at WWF, you're always scared to death you were going to lose your job. It's like you could screw up one time there, you're done. And it's like, I can't say as I blame them. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar company, but at the time, like I said, you would go up there and you're just so overwhelmed by these bigger-than-life characters. That was the fun part, though. When you would actually go out and work with these guys, the first time I worked with the Road Warriors outside of the NWA was in Cops Coliseum in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I will never forget that place. It was sold out. The walk to the ring was ridiculous. It was long as shit, and there was no ramp back then. You were on the floor, You come out, and they got the big video wall thing or whatever set up, and you come out through that, and it would take forever to get there. And these people were cussing and spitting and acting like asses, and we get in the ring, and the music came on, and when that "Oh, What a Rush" shit hit, it was the most amazing feeling. That whole crowd just exploded to the point where I looked at the referee and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" But it like I said, up there, mistakes can cost you your job. At WCW, you get your ass chewed if you did something stupid. But for the most part, it was a wrestling company, and that's what I always wanted to do, was wrestle.
Now, during your career, you were pretty much used as an enhancement talent. At least with WWF and WCW. And me personally, I've always felt that enhancement talent are often more talented than the wrestlers you're in the ring with, because, your job is to make them look good. What are your feelings on that?
It's true, but it really honestly depends on who you're talking about, because I worked with some of the greatest workers in the entire business. Like I said earlier, the Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton is absolutely phenomenal. Jake the Snake Roberts, absolutely phenomenal. He will dissect a match with anyone, whether it's a job guy or a top guy, and to the point where it made sense, it looked good. I don't ever remember Jake having a bad match on TV. House shows sometimes, depending on who he's working with. But I worked with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, absolutely phenomenal. Bobby Eaton, Johnny B. Bad. People give him a bad rap sometimes, but I always had a great time with him. And funny matches, because at the time, he was doing that little Richard stuff with the kiss, the don't miss, with the punch, and then put the thing on your face. I still have a couple of them that I saved. It was funny. I told him the first time I worked with him, I was a complete mark for his gimmick, and I said, "Dude, don't stick it there. It'll stick because of the sweat. I want to take it home, put it in my scrapbook," And back then, that was rare, too. A lot of the guys, if you ask a lot of older guys, they don't have shit, whether it be a house fire or they just never asked to keep stuff. I kept little mementos over the years, and it's funny because I have them in picture frames and stuff, and to tell the stories is amazing. But when I was blessed with that. I can't say everybody was, but I was blessed with the fact that I got to work with the greatest workers in the business and guys that gave a shit, guys that, like, people laugh about the Monday wars with Nitro and Raw. You have no idea the amount of animosity and just shit that was going on. I mean, I remember seeing monitors. There was never any audio, but you could see the monitor, the live feed of Raw at Nitro. And when I worked at Raw, they would have live feeds at WCW too. I mean, it was funny because they watch each other's show, because the one that goes to break is the other one's going to win the quarter hour because everybody's going to switch the channel. You know what I mean? Me personally, I had two TVs. Both had cable on them, so I could sit there and watch both shows at the same time. It's funny too because I have one of the largest tape collections of anybody I know. I've got like 5,800 videotapes. I've got at one time until towards the end, I had almost every Monday Nitro they ever aired. And, of course, the other shows were on years before I ever got there. So, I mean, but Saturday night, I have all the good stuff dating back to when they were in the TV studio. You walk in the TV studio, walk out with $500, and you got your ass beat 3 times.
Now, you've gotten to work with a lot of different talented guys. Who would you say are some of the most underrated guys you've worked with, and who are some of the most overrated guys you've worked with?
Underrated. Man, I can put it to you like this. Most of the stars I work with were bona fide stars. But there were a few. A guy named Ice Train. And I don't mean any ill towards the guy. He just sucked. I didn't like working with Vader because he just took liberties that you don't take on people for absolutely no reason at all. Wow. I worked with a team called Thunder and Lightning at WCW. I'll never forget it. We were in Atlanta, Georgia. We were the third hour of tapings. I'm driving home after the show so I could get home to see my family, and I blew my knee out in that match with the guy's forehead. They decided they want to do this lame-ass, half-ass Road Warrior finish, and it wasn't nowhere near what the Road Warriors did, but when the guy hit me, I go to flip, and my knee, instead of him getting the hell out of my way, my knee hit him dead center of his forehead, and it's so funny because in the replay of the video, you can absolutely see he is not there. He's knocked out on his feet. And it's like, you know, guys like that, there was a few of them that sucked. Chief Charlie Norris, all he ever did was bitch that he didn't get put over because he was an Indian, which was total bullshit. It's because he was fat and he sucked. Overrated. See, everybody I worked with a top talent other than those guys. The top talent meaning I worked with the Vaders, with Sting, with Macho Man Randy Savage, the Road Warriors, which I always loved working with the Road Warriors. It was never a long match, and it was usually a rough match, but Hawk was just amazing. He was a very good friend of mine, and the day he died, I don't care what the rest of them say, tag team wrestling, there'll never be another Road Warriors. But at the same time, you work with Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, and they're fast, and they're good, and they're right there, and you didn't get hurt, you know, because if you knew what the hell you were doing, you were good to go. See, that's the thing. When you look at the guys nowadays, I would love to see some of these guys, and I'm not going to name names because it's not fair, but you know who they are. I'd love to see them work 9 shows a week. They can barely get TV off the ground now, you know, without guys getting hurt or something stupid happening. The guys I travel with, somebody posted on the internet today, Bad Street USA with Michael Hayes, Terry Bam Bam Gordy, and Buddy Jack Roberts, the music video. You guys are familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
In the day that video was released, the Freebirds were one of the hottest things going. Terry Bam Bam Gordy wasn't the smartest guy in the world, but he could work his ass off. Buddy Jack Roberts, all the way around, businessman, smart-wise, in the ring. And Michael Hayes, look at what job he's got today. That tells you right now. You know, the guys nowadays, you got to push them for 6 months, give them videos, pyro, some broad, and that's another thing, the diva situation. You know what? I like to look at titties just as much as the next guy, but when there's more broads in the dressing room than there is guys, and it's a guys wrestling show, there's something wrong. And none of the real female wrestlers will take offense to that, because in a girl's day, I'll never forget when I started in Indies, a girl always got paid like 5 times what we did. Why? Because they were an attraction. You didn't see them that much. Now, Vince has said, okay, we're entertainment. Please tune in with your children and buy our merchandise, but every broad there's got her titties hanging out. You know, it's like, I remember Ivory, totally respectable. She's an amazing worker, too, and she was, I think, at one time, the oldest worker in the dressing room up there. Sherry Martel, she didn't have to do that stuff. The original diva in the business, I knew Miss Elizabeth well. She was a super nice lady. You got, back then we had Missy Hyatt, and, you know, let me think, my brain's escaping me here, Sunshine, and girls like that. And then Tammy came along, Sunny, but the girls would show stuff, but there was only one girl, and you didn't see her every week, you know what I'm saying? Tammy was the most downloaded person ever at one time, but you didn't see her on TV every single week, and she wasn't, you know, there was a certain bit of class. Now it's just, they all look alike, and there's 100 of them.
I do see what you're saying on that. And yeah, back in the day, it wasn't about, you know, the bodies. It was about what they could actually give to the business.
You look at it this way. We were talking about a legend yesterday, me and Dwayne, Captain Redneck, Dick Murdoch. Dick Murdoch was a big old fat country boy that could work his ever-loving ass off. God rest his soul. Dick Murdoch was a phenomenal heel. He got over as a babyface, kind of, but he was always the best when he was a heel. And here this guy is with this giant beer gut and no build of such, but he was a big man. And look at the guys now. I said there's 2 guys, and I'm going to need both your help here because of the names. Trevor Murdoch, actually I remembered one of them, who just got released not long ago. And Mike Rotundo's kid that's there now, who I've never met before, I worked with his dad, but if you put them two together as a tag team and pushed it, you'd see all the muscle guys up there pissed off. But you know what? All the wrestling fans south of Pennsylvania would get back into the business again. They would want to see it. They believe it. You know, when you go into a bar room and there's a fight, I don't know how old you guys are, but when you go into a bar room and there's a fight, how often do the guys have, you know, the big old 8-pack, the giant biceps, the pretty face, the perfect teeth? It didn't work like that. Pro wrestling was based off a thing when I got into it that these guys will beat your ass, you know, period. And actually, if you pissed them off, or if you worked for Bill Watts, if there was a bar fight, you had to whip their ass if you want to keep your job.
Yeah. Now, my next question for you is, what's a rib or a road story that you can share with our listeners?
Oh, God. Which one haven't you had on your show? That's the thing, because it's so funny for me to watch guys shoot interviews, because I hear them, they always ask that, and it's funny because a lot of the ribs I was there for. The Nasty Boys with the Smoking Guns was friggin' classic. Christ, I might be letting something out. It's got to be out there somewhere. We're at TV at WWF, Smoking Guns, pushed to just high hell. The Nasty Boys, however, they were getting their push, but they love to mess with people. And God bless them, Brian and Jerry, they're good friends. I've worked with them a crap load of times. One night we're at TV, and it's probably the second taping, and at the WWF, the gorilla position, you go up, you know, and put your jacket or whatever your gimmicks were, like the Smoking Guns had their gun belts and stuff, and all that shit's just sitting up there. Well, somehow or another, because Vince is usually up around that area too, so I smoked cigarettes. I stayed the hell away from Gorilla because Vince just didn't go for that at all. It's so funny, we're watching the monitors, and up next is the Smoking Guns. The Nasty Boys were classic and known for taking forever to get to where the hell they had to be, you know, but when they were there, boy, they were on, you know. And you hear them screaming for the Nasty Boys, and next thing you know, the music comes on, and the Nasty Boys go, and then the Smoking Guns, and it's time for them to go out. They go out, they grab their hats, throw them on their heads, go out to the ring. They shoot off their little cat pistols or whatever, and when they go to take their hats off, they're stuck to their heads with super glue. That was so classic. And then we had the Rena Mero, somebody accidentally shit in her bag a few times. And that happened to a couple of people. And constantly, I'll tell you, the one that pissed me off the most, that happened to me a couple of times, and I know who did it, and I'll never get a chance to get the bastards back. Handcuffing or padlocking your bags to shit. And it always happened when you were, like, working last, you want to get back to the hotel, and there's a party, or there's somebody wants to go out, whatever, and you come in the dressing room and your shit is handcuffed to and me personally, the last time it happened was Augusta, Georgia. My bag was handcuffed to a water pipe in the ceiling. And the reason you put it on the water pipe is you can't jerk on that pipe, because if you break the sumbitch, you're going to flood the dressing room. And it took probably an hour and a half for the maintenance guy to find a hacksaw to get my shit down. But, dude, the best ribbers in the business were Owen Hart, Mr. Fuji, Jesus Christ, the stuff that I saw, Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog. I mean, and you know what? The thing of it is, some of the guys pulled mean, cruel ribs, like when they shit in Mark Henry's meatball sub in Germany. But he pissed a lot of people off, and that's just what happened. But he's got the final laugh because he's still on TV. You know what I mean? All these years later, his dumb ass, he's still there. I don't know how, but he's still there. And then you have people that pull cruel shit that mess up your stuff, or, you know, like Sable. I mean, I never did not get along with her. She always treated me with respect and stuff and didn't bother me, but I saw her attitude and stuff. And those guys did some freaky shit to her. I mean, like I said, they shit in her bag. Her outfits cost a fortune, you know. But the Mark Henry meatball sub thing is probably one that will go down in history. That and Harley Race shocking people as they walk out of the shower with a stun gun. He gets you on your.
That's great. The stun gun's always the good one. I still do that one. Actually, I'll bust it out in a locker room, and, like, you'll have a bunch of people stand next to you, and all of a sudden you turn it on, and you press the button, and they scatter to the other side of the room.
Well, dude, just do it this way. Wait till somebody gets out of the shower. That's when he got me. I got out of the shower. I just had a really good match with Ricky Steamboat. I'll never forget. There's another Columbus. We used to go to Columbus, Georgia all the time. The old Civic Center, for anybody out there listening, for somebody in Columbus, not this new building, the old building. In fact, I wrestled the last match in that building against beautiful Bobby back when he was getting his last big push or whatever. But anyway, I come out of that shower, and I was happy as shit. I had a great match. The boss said he wanted to see me, and that usually meant you were going to get a raise type idea, because he wanted to meet with you after the show. And I come out, and I'm all smiling, and that son of a bitch got me from behind. I love Harley Race to death. He's an awesome guy. Runs amazing independent shows, too. But he hit me on the ass with that son of a bitch, and I thought I was going to die. That was amazing. But that's just the thing, man. You got to do something, because you know what? When you're on the road like we were now, like I said, these guys now, they do road shows, but nowhere near as many. And the shit's broke down into two companies, not into, like we were A, B, and C. Okay, the A show, if you got on the A show and Hogan was there, you're making great money from the opening match to the main event. Of course, he was making a ton of cash. The B show might be, for instance, Kevin Nash against, I don't know. Let's just call names like Val Venus is the main event. Then you get down to the C show, and I had that one the tour I was telling you about. It was Jeff Jarrett against Scott Hall as Razor Ramon was our main event. And the thing is, dude, they made money. See, the difference in the business, in my personal opinion, and it's only my opinion, is we got paid to put asses every so many inches. These guys now get paid to walk in the door. And it's like I said, it's an entertainment company. Well, that's fine. You do whatever you got to do. Vince McMahon's a brilliant man. He's a billionaire. How much better does it get, right? But like I said, go on the road for 19 days straight and not go home. These guys don't know what that's like. The John Cena's might, because he's got so many personal appearances. He does more personal appearances than he does wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a difference of when you're getting your ass beat twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday. Go to TV on Monday. You might wrestle 3 or 4 times on Monday. Go to TV on Tuesday, do the same shit, then go back on the road, go Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then start the doubles on Saturday and Sunday again. And do that multiple weeks at a time.
And I'm sure it takes a toll on your body.
Well, the guys, a lot of the thing, that's the thing. I'm not saying they were right at the time, but you've heard all the interviews. You've heard all the shoots. You take cocaine to wake up. You take a sleeping pill to go to sleep. It was funny. I'm fine now. I mean, I work for the Department of Correction, and I do my weekend indies and stuff, and I do that just not because I have to anymore. I do it because I love the business, and I love to help the new kids, teach them how to work, because they're not learning how to work in these damn schools. There's another school here in Baltimore, or not Baltimore, I'm sorry, in a place called Hagerstown, Maryland, the House of Pain. And I don't know if you've seen it on the internet. They've got their website's got an amazing, ridiculous amount of hits to their website. They've got awards for it and stuff. John Rambo, Dick Karakoff, my hat's off to them, because they're the longest running indie that I've ever seen. And it's like John runs still to this day every single Tuesday at his gym is a show for free for the fans. And then he runs road shows, which are in West Virginia and Pennsylvania, Maryland, whatever, on Saturday. But then if he's not running one of those shows, one of the big ones, he runs another show at his gym. So his kids, that's like the last territory. They work every single week. And the guys aren't the greatest wrestlers in the world, but there's a lot of guys there that show a lot of possible stuff. It could be there. They just need to be at the right place at the right time,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Now, I just got a couple more questions for you, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. And my next question for you is, how can a promoter get a hold of you to book you for a show?
I got my Facebook page under Bobby Starr, 2 R's. My regular email is, how about I give it to you, and if they get in touch, the promoters get in touch with you guys, you can just give it to them. I don't want to give it out normal, because then I'll have 8 million emails again. But my Facebook page, I mean, I do a lot of work with concerts with Bret Michaels from Poison, Motley Crue, We did Sugarland this year and Kenny Chesney, and there's so many different bands. I shoot pictures for them. That's like a passion. I'm like Jim Cornette, The only difference is I do it because I love to do it. And like him, he used to take pictures of the boys back in the day, like way early in his career, and it's like he's still got the pictures, and so do I. But yeah, I do a lot of work with that stuff, and in my wrestling and in my daytime thing, like I said, I decided to be like the big boss man, but instead of staying in the jail, I just visit, deliver, and head on to the next one, But my Facebook page is the easiest way to get me, and it also has a updated list of where my shows are and stuff like that. Other than that, like I said, if they contact you, I'm willing to go anywhere, man. It just takes a little bit longer to make sure I can get time off because I'm a union guy now. But I was one of the things, I tell you, as many guys I knew, and girls, Sherry Martell's the first one that comes to mind because she was like my best buddy. That passed away, that my goal in life now, of course, when you're a young kid and you get into wrestling, I want to be the next Hulk Hogan. My goal in life now is to stay off that list and just live a happy life. People don't realize that the guys that you see in the ring, even today's guys, still learn because their shelf life now is like 5 years and under. The biggest problem in the business is there's no true superstars anymore. Because on any given night in Virginia, we talked earlier about GXW. Shout out to them guys. They've treated me really well down there in just outside of Richmond, Virginia. These guys, look at the Barbarian this past weekend. Barbarian's been in the business since like 1983 or 4. And when he walks out, they still pop huge, and it's a big deal. But these guys now, there's been guys in the last 5 years in the WWE that have held the tag belts. I don't even know who the hell they are. I couldn't tell you their name. I remember kind of what their gimmick was, but I couldn't tell you their name. My day, that didn't happen. Everybody was a superstar. They all became major superstars. And even some of the enhancement guys, Barry Horowitz, Steve Lombardi, Dusty Wolf, if you remember Dusty, he's still out there. Those guys got pushed because they were on the road all the time, and they became major stars. I think that through guys like you running these radio shows through the internet, which is like worldwide, it goes everywhere, people can understand what we did to set the groundwork for what these guys are doing now. But the difference is it doesn't get back to pro wrestling, and the only alternative to WWE is TNA. And they're trying their ass off, but the problem is there's so many chiefs and the Indians, it's a mess. I see this stuff they're doing. I mean, they got a lot of good stuff cooking. They really do, and they've got an amazing amount of athletes down there. It's just make it happen. I just wish Ted Turner would come back, Uncle Ted and his money. And it's like, because Ted Turner loved wrestling with a passion. And if you put the right guys up top that know how to talk to the biggest stars in the business, then you would see another pro wrestling company, and you guys could have interviews all the time. You know what I mean? It's like, because the guys would be so, it wouldn't be a thing. Like, I'm not pissed off at what I did in the business. I had a great time. I made a lot of money, and I'm still making good money. I'm one of the few. Tom Brandy, Sal Sincere, that guy's on the road more now than he was when he worked for the WWF. And he was another one when I talked about earlier about the guys that you were saying underrated. He's a phenomenal athlete, and he never really got a big push. He didn't get the push he deserved being there. He made Rocky. He was the first one Rocky went on the road with. But nevertheless, like you said, contact me through Facebook, contact me through your show. Hopefully I'll be invited back on soon, and we'll give you an update, because we got, actually, this Saturday should be interesting. I am being inducted into the Maryland Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in a place called Dundalk, Maryland, so that should be pretty cool, doing a six-man Legends match with a bunch of the guys that 22 years ago when I got in the business were here, and the fans actually come out in droves to see it. It should be a lot of fun.
Congratulations on that. I'm looking forward to hearing about that.
It's pretty cool. Last year they inducted Nikolai Volkov and some local guys. This time we're inducting a guy that was his team called the Korean team. Rip Sawyer's still with us, and Diamond Dave Casanova passed away quite a few years ago. He's a very good friend of mine, and we're inducting them too with me. And trying to think, Steve Carino, I think is a name that you guys would know, will be here with us. And it's a fun show. It's like stepping back in time 15 years. Nobody's bitching about pushes. Nobody's bitching about this, that. We just go out there and have a good time, and the fans know it, because last year we sold that bitch out.
And one last question, Bobby. Earlier you were talking about you were working with Gilbert, Dwayne Gill's wrestling school.
Yep.
Do they have a website, or if fans want to take a look at that, how can they?
He's got a Facebook thing going. Anybody that's interested, I mean, of course, it's got to be within a reasonable distance. But he's in Severn, Maryland, and it's just called the Gilbert Pro Wrestling Academy. Check Facebook. He's got his Facebook page, or you can call him. It's 410-969-8077. Ramblin' Rich Myers, who was known as George Animal Steel's son for quite a while on WWF TV. He was an enhancement guy, too. He's one of the trainers. Earl of Pearl's the other trainer, which is a kid that came up here in Baltimore that's phenomenal. Axel Rotten comes in from time to time. There's a lot of guys that come in from time to time. They had Carlito down there this past week, and they're going to have Val Venus is coming in to do something soon. But, yeah, Dwayne Gill, I mean, because he'll tell you right off the bat, he's not going to bullshit you like a lot of schools. He's not going to take your money unless he sees that you can be a pro wrestler. And Rich and Earl wouldn't put up with it either. And, like I said, you come to a school like that, and you get a chance that Val Venus might come in and train with you for the day. You might see any of the guys, actually, because Dwayne knows everybody. He was around for forever up there. And, of course, with the Job Squad, Al Snow, and all that stuff. But, yeah, definitely check it out. Check out my Facebook page, too, because all of them are hooked to my Facebook page. So.
And lastly, do you have any messages for the fans out there who are listening?
Honestly, I'm going to tell them on your show the same thing I'm going to tell them Saturday. You may have booed me, you might have cheered me, you may have looked at me, oh, he's just a job guy, or oh, wow, I like his tights, whatever the deal was. But the bottom line is I spent 22 years of my life just trying to entertain and make people have a good time. I mean, whether you believed or you didn't believe, I guess if you didn't believe, then you're an idiot. But for most cases, every night that I worked, I gave them everything I had. And some nights it wasn't 100%, some nights it was. But just thank you. Thank you to everybody. Thank the real wrestling fans. And that's a rarity anymore.
And thank you for all the years of entertainment, Bobby. And I'd like to thank you for coming on the show this evening.
Thank you, man. I had a lot of fun. It's funny when you guys emailed me. I was like, this will be cool, because I don't do anything on Wednesday night. But I'd love to come back on. I'll let you know how the legend thing goes because, I mean, like I said, there's so many people that show up there, and it's like the Ravens and the Baltimore Oriole guys, and it's a fun thing. Maryland's a big sports town, so it should be hot this Saturday night, 6 o'clock. Starts the Hall of Fame.
All right. Fans in the Baltimore area, check that out.